Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our December 9th, last meeting of 2024. All members are present. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, again, good evening to everybody. Next up, we have our transmitting of Treasury warrants. Tonight, we have Treasury warrants 2522, 2522W, 2522T, 2523, 2523T, and 2523S. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept all.
Thank you, Mr. De Palma. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Slagle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I get a motion for the approval of the transmission of Treasury warrant number 2523W?
So moved.
Second?
A motion made and seconded. All those in favor? That is 4-0. Thank you.
I'll abstain. Thank you very much. Tonight, we have no minutes to approve, so we're going to move on to item number 4, which regrettably would have been a recognition of the youth hockey team on their outstanding performance this past November, winning the 18U Division III state championship. And we just found out about an hour ago, unfortunately, from their coach who called me to let me know that he regrets to inform me that there was a number of conflicts when they were assembling the team today to be here. They had every intention of being here, but as most of you know, 17-year-olds can be pretty busy in the evening, and a bunch of them had commitments, whether it was tryouts, a couple others had a work commitment, and so unfortunately they can't be here tonight, but we really want to congratulate them, and hopefully at some point in the future we'll have a chance to celebrate them again. But we're super proud of this team. Again, it's the Division III under-18 division. They're the state champs again. They're coached by Ray McCurry, who's no stranger to this room. He's actually had this team in quite a number of times, if you recall, over the past couple of years, have had tremendous success with this team, and now this is the oldest division here before they get to high school that you can get in youth hockey. And once again, what a great accomplishment for this team and their coaches. So we're super, super proud of them. I know there was a great write-up about them in the newspaper. And there was a lot of chatter about them online and social media, which is super well-deserved. So we wanted to have them in tonight, but we do want to extend our congratulations, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have them in and celebrate them properly. And we certainly wish them well with their tryouts and everything else they have going on. But if you see these guys around, Coach Ray McCurry and his staff and his players, just phenomenal season. We're super proud of them. So congratulations to the U18 team, and we look forward to celebrating them well into the future. So that brings us to item number 5, communications. Mr. Slagle, do you want to walk us through? We have, I believe, tonight three memos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first communication is regarding town hall hours. And at the outset, I do want to apologize. When I was putting together this memo, my intention was to try to make it clear that I wanted to have a discussion with the board about this. And in hindsight, I should have put this, that I'd like to schedule the late day on Mondays or Tuesdays, or on Mondays to coincide with the select board meetings, or on Tuesdays, depending on kind of the discussion here today. To take a kind of a step back, I've been evaluating with the department heads here in town hall the frequency of visitors on Friday afternoons, and trying to, through conversations with them and their input from residents, see whether it might make sense to have an hour when we are open later in the evenings to accommodate residents who are who work jobs that conflict with regular business hours. Lots of other municipalities have done this. So this is not something new. A bunch of our municipalities around Wilmington do in fact do this. Most of our offices are free of residents on Friday afternoons. We don't get a lot of foot traffic on Friday. Quite frankly, we get almost none. for afternoons. So what I'd like to do is have a pilot program for calendar year 2025, where we have one late night and then a half day on Fridays, to try and evaluate whether or not that does bring in traffic in the evenings and whether that works for the town. The options in my mind were, the benefits of a Monday would be that the Monday coincided with select board meetings, and therefore you'd have traffic in and up to select board meetings. The downside of that is that there are multiple times during the year when there are holidays that fall on Mondays, and so we wouldn't be accommodating the public during those weeks. So that's the downside of that. So I can certainly see the challenge there. There are some municipalities that are open late on Monday and then move it to late on Tuesday on weeks of when Monday is a holiday. And so that's something that some municipalities do. Most municipalities, however, do a late day in the Tuesday through Thursday category because it's much cleaner. You just have that day, and that's always your late day. So as I said, in hindsight, I would have written this a little bit different, so I apologize in advance. But I'm hoping that the board sees the value in a pilot program that allows us to stay open late one day and close early on Fridays, to see if that works well for the public.
Anybody, questions or comments? Mr. De Palma?
I have,
Sorry about that.
that was Santa. I have no issues with it. I notice, most of the communities in the area do schedule an evening. I think it would benefit the residents where they can't get out of work or they don't want to take the time off from work to run down to do whatever transaction they have to do with the town. It'll give them the opportunity for at least one night a week to come in and be able to handle their business without inconveniencing them with their working hours. So I have no qualms with it. I hope you implement this soon.
Thank you.
I have no issue with it either. I think, it's a good idea, and I agree, a lot of other municipalities do the same thing. So I think it's, it's a benefit to the town to be open late and then balance it with the half-day on Friday, so I have no issue.
Mr. West?
Yeah, my only question is that if town hall's open from 8:30 to 4:30, so if we're gonna be open until 7, that's 2.5 hours extra that will be open on, say, Monday. But on Friday, we're closing at noon, so we're closed for 4.5 hours. So how do we get equal here as far as the 2.5 versus?
Yeah, so it comes down to making sure that everybody's 35 hours are met, and so that generally means that the lunches would be reduced. So instead of people having an hour lunch and not being available to the public, they'd have reduced hours for lunch that they'd be available.
But that takes a half hour. I'm just saying you got 2.5 hours versus 4.5 hours.
Well, a half hour every day. You're missing lunch on
Okay,
Fridays, so you're
okay.
losing an hour there, and then if you take half-hour lunches for the rest of the week, then there'd be
2 hours.
35
Okay.
hours.
Yeah, so as long as they're getting the,
Yeah, no, we wouldn't be cutting anybody's hours. People would be expected to work 35 hours as part of their schedule, unless they're a part-timer, obviously.
got
so.
it.
Thank you, Mr. West. Mr.
So,
Kyra?
so what is the lunch now?
What?
an hour?
It's an hour.
So they're gonna be okay cutting it back a half hour?
And again, just to take a step back, this is something I wanted to bring to the board before I took it to the union. My understanding is the union has actually proposed this in the past and included cuts in lunches as part of their proposal to try to have a short Friday and a longer workday. So I don't have any anticipation that the AFSCME 2 is going to have any concerns with that.
Yeah. That kind of concerns me, to be honest with you, that you're cutting that back. I know in where I work, in the city of Amesbury, we do this. We have Tuesday, late night Tuesday. I would not be in favor of a late night Monday, and I mentioned that to you
Yes.
only because of the holidays. I think there becomes an issue with people wanting to take long weekends. I also think that when someone goes away for a full week, coming back on that Monday, working until 7 can be a drag, so to speak. Only from, speaking from experience, because, you know, I'm in a municipality that does this. I think the half-hour lunch is gonna be difficult. We start at 8. That's where that extra time comes in, not 8:30. So again, I think it's worth a try. And it may work out. It would be nice to hear from the public if they would be supportive of this. I can tell you that on the late nights that we have in Amesbury, there's not a lot of traffic. On Fridays, it's a 4-hour day. You get there and it's like you're just starting to rev up, and then then it's time to go. So, you know, I'm not saying that productivity isn't at top notch there, but it is, you know, it's just the way it is. It will be interesting to see how it works out. It's a different community, you know, so we might get more, this is a larger community, so we certainly might get more foot traffic. It may be better for the residents to have a late night. But I'm a little leery about that half hour, especially on a late night. And then you're not providing a dinner half hour, and then you have mandatory 15-minute breaks between certain hours, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, so as I say, this is all subject to conversation with
Yeah.
the union. Certainly wouldn't do anything that the union wasn't comfortable with. So that's the,
But
and it may be tweaked a little bit on one side or the other. We may say on Fridays, it's gonna be a 4-hour day, start at 8, leave at noon, to try to make the math make more sense.
I mean, I would definitely be a no on Monday, but that's me. And who determines the hours of town hall? Is it the members of the Board of Selectmen? Is it the bylaws? Is it written in the bylaws? Do we know that yet?
I don't believe it's written in the bylaws, not anywhere that I could find. So I think the short answer is, in all likelihood, it's the town manager's determination. Obviously, I certainly wouldn't do that if the board wasn't supportive of it, so it's not,
I mean, I'm supportive of giving it a try. I just,
Yeah.
I just
same.
don't like the Monday, but that's,
Yeah,
again,
and so
that's your determination.
I think Tuesdays make logical sense for the reasons that you say, and then it's just one day. You don't have to worry about moving it back and forth, because moving it from Monday to Tuesday is what some municipalities do on holidays, but I think that may make it more
Make it
confusing for the
difficult,
public.
Yeah. And I would think that the majority of the municipalities are Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I know up where I am, the majority up there are Tuesdays, and sometimes it becomes easier, because now if you need to communicate with another town or city, you can pick up the phone and you know that they're open at the
They're still
same
open,
time. you
yeah.
know, so.
No, I agree with that. I think those are good points.
Yeah, so I hope that's some good feedback. I mean, obviously, if members have additional feedback or something, you know, is brought to your attention, or you have some more questions, obviously, I encourage you to reach out to the manager. You know, myself, I'm open to hearing about new ideas, about ways we can help better serve our residents, and I totally understand that, you know, 4:30 in the afternoon is not exactly ideal for some folks who may work till 5, right? You'll never have a chance to get over here unless you leave work early or take the day off. So, you know, certainly that would be advantageous. So, you know, I'm open to hearing more about it, and I don't, you know, I think a good comment was made about, you know, what do residents think? What do the employees think might be the pros and cons of a Tuesday versus a Wednesday or a Thursday? And I'd love to hear more about that. And I also think it's a good time maybe to try something, given that we're gonna be having a new town hall come online. So maybe, does it make sense to, if you were gonna make a change, you know, to try it out beforehand, and to implement it when the new town hall opens? I don't know, you know. Those are just some of the thoughts I had. And the other one was that, I would imagine the holidays obviously would, you know, potentially cause an issue that could be resolved, I'm sure. The other one that comes to mind is like early voting, right? I'm gonna make sure that I would imagine that we would make exceptions when that time came. Like right now, we're not open on Saturdays, but when we do some early voting, we are open on Saturdays.
Yeah,
So
and
I would
have-
imagine.
I have talked to the clerk about it, I've talked to every department head about it, and wanted them to think about how it would impact their department's functioning, and whether or not they needed to make exceptions, or they needed to have times when they would be open late, and so that's certainly something if there was, if the policy change was to happen, we would certainly be taking those things into account as well.
So, you know, I'm for one, like some of my colleagues said, I'm open to hearing more about it, and so I think this is a good way to put it on the radar and get people talking about it, and then maybe we'll get some more feedback in the coming weeks or days, and if, like I said, if people have additional questions or comments, feel free to reach out to the manager.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next memorandum is regarding something that we've had in front of the board in more generic terms several meetings ago, and that is creating an appropriate tool for evaluating the town manager. So, as you'll see, attached to the memo is a evaluation matrix that I put together after looking at some other samples. And this is, we're not looking for any kind of response or feedback in this particular meeting. It's something I think we'll take up in January when the chair feels like it's appropriate to put it back on the agenda. But I wanted folks to have this to be able to review it and think about whether or not they have any thoughts or comments about it. And again, this is just a draft, and so I think I'm certainly open to any thoughts or feelings folks have about it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Eric. I had asked Eric to add this in. I don't want to say that your honeymoon phase is over, but you're 6 months on the job now, and certainly you want to make sure that we give people an opportunity to, take a look at this and then come back with feedback, in the new year, and perhaps we can find the path forward. But hopefully, I think we can all agree we want to come to something that mutually we can agree upon and will be fair for both parties. And so this is a great opportunity for people to see your initial thoughts, and then we can find a way to develop what we think as a group in the new year. So wanted to put this on the table for us. Yes?
Quick comment, is it possible for us to get copies of Mr. Hull's last evaluation, just to, even if it's, or the evaluation form, just to get an idea of what we've done in the past? Doesn't have to be Phil, I shouldn't say Mr. Hull's, but a blank one that was used, so.
Yeah, my understanding is that Mr. Hull was the last one that was used, and maybe the only one that that was used. So we could certainly provide you a copy of that. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, this way here, like, it kind of gives us a comparison of both, and if anybody else want, if you have other things you want to.
And to be fair, I didn't look at the evaluation form for Mr. Hull before I put this together, so I wasn't responding to it, reacting to it, or trying to comment on it at all.
And it can be a blank form, I'm just saying, just something that you can kind of do an apples to apples
We can
comparison.
We can definitely provide that to
Sure.
members so that they can, I'll come right out and say it. I think that one needed some updating,
Yes,
so.
it did. I was trying to, yeah.
If I have a nice way to say
A
that.
good way to say it, yes.
So I hope everybody understands that I just want to make sure that we put this out there for folks to
No,
start
this is
thinking
great to
about,
have. I
and we can
appreciate it.
eventually come to an agreement here mutually, what we think is fair moving forward. So thank you for that, Eric.
Absolutely. So the final memorandum is one that I just gave to folks today, because obviously when the packet went out, this special town meeting had not happened. But this is an update with some specifics, not necessarily for the board, since everyone was present and was familiar with what happened at the special town meeting on Saturday morning, but for the public to kind of hear the official results of Saturday's special town meeting that was held at the high school auditorium. Very well attended. 508 registered voters signed in at the special town meeting. There were 5 articles on the warrant. We took action on all 5, and I believe we got out of there right around noon. So a solid 3 hours worth of work was done by town meeting. Article 1, which was the MBTA zoning overlay district. This is the one that I think it's fair to say drove the most participation at the special town meeting, and had been kicked over from the annual town meeting at the request of town meeting, got referred back to the planning board to have it come back before town meeting later in the year. So that was to make the town compliant with MGL 40A, Section 3A, the MBTA Communities Law. And that was needed a simple majority to pass, and it failed 154 to 288. So Article 1 did fail. Article 2 was a housekeeping amendment to the town site plan review. This was to codify the site plan review authority of the planning board as with respect to as-of-right projects, and just making it clear that they didn't have the authority to deny site plan review, but only to either approve or approve with conditions. I think that was explained very well by the planning director at the special town meeting, and it required a 2/3 majority to pass, and it did pass, 343 to 52. So I think that was something that was explained very well. So I want to give Val credit for making that clear to town meeting. Article 3 was another zoning article related to the MBTA zoning overlay district. It was the article that would have added the 15% affordable requirement to that district if that district had passed. As folks who were at the town meeting are aware, because of random draw, Article number 3 came up before Article number 1, and so if they had come up in numerical order, we probably would have passed over it, given the result of Article number 1, but it didn't, so we did in fact take action on Article number 3. It did require a 2/3 majority to pass, and it failed 217 to 196. So just to kind of make it clear to folks who weren't at the special town meeting, the reasons why the quantum of votes were different for Article 1 and Article 3 had to do with some changes to the zoning act that were made a few years ago under Governor Baker's administration that allowed certain zoning changes to be done at the town meeting level with only a majority vote. And so the Article 1 was one of those type of zoning changes, so just for folks who might have been confused by that. There were 2 other articles that were on, both financial articles. Article 4 was to pay a past due bill from FY23 of $4,111.80. Because it was a past due bill, it required a 9/10 majority to pass, and the moderator did a very good job explaining that, and it did pass unanimously. So I think that was good. And then Article 5 was the article that appropriated an additional $530,000 for the eminent domain taking at 64 Wildwood Street. That included relocation costs. The quantum of vote for that was 2/3 majority, and it passed 400 to 2. So that is the update, Mr. Chair. And if anybody has any questions or clarifications they want from that, I'd be certainly glad to.
Yeah, thank you for that, and again, to the benefit of the audience who may be watching at home and weren't able to attend on Saturday, but you know, as you mentioned, I think it was a really good turnout relative to what we're used to seeing, and appreciate those who participated, and also want to, again, like everyone did quite a bit on Saturday, want to compliment Valerie, her staff, and then the planning board who put a lot of work into preparing for this meeting, so. Any other questions or comments regarding this memo? Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have item number 6, board to consider. Appointment of a new member to the Council of the Arts.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is board to consider appointing Karen M. Manish Porshadi to the Council of the Arts.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much for your volunteerism.
Number 7, this is the board to consider the ratification of the town manager's appointment of Christopher Sambataro to the Commission on Disabilities for a term to expire April 30th, 2026.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you for your volunteerism. All right.
Board to consider number 8. This is the board to consider approval of the 2025 licenses for alcoholic beverages, automatic amusement, billiard room, Class 1 vehicle sales, Class 2 vehicle sales, common victular, and entertainment.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
We'll make a motion to accept all,
Second,
as,
oh, sorry.
oh, no, that's okay, as long as the proper authorities have been notified and approved.
Can I just make,
Go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
just, we did remove the CC Restaurant Group doing business as Rocco's Restaurant from the all alcohol, from the common victular and from the entertainment licenses, because the new licensee has gotten his all alcoholic licenses, and his other licenses need to be in the same name. So these are on here as a precaution, but they've been removed from all of the forms. So, with that change.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second and under discussion. All of these businesses have their proper documentation in?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
I second.
Ms. Maselli, you're welcome. And the vote was unanimous? Yes, it was. Okay. Thank you. Item number 9.
Mr. Chair, item number 9 is the board to consider executing the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission's 2025 Seasonal Population Increase Estimation Form.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved?
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Is there any discussion? Anything you want to add here, Mr. Slagle?
Nope.
Questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And finally, board to consider item number 10.
Yes, item number 10, issuing a Sunday entertainment license to K1 Speed Incorporated at 40 Fordham Road.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
So move?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded. Is there any discussion? And again, just for consistency, all the documentation, proper documentation has been received?
It has.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. And if folks could stick around, we'll have some documents to sign afterwards
Yes.
for this.
Yes, everybody needs to sign their life away for these.
yeah,
It's an annual tradition this time of year.
that's right.
All right, so that brings us to public comment. Anybody like to be heard? Sir, good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
We know who you are, but if you don't mind, your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Terry Boland, One All Grove.
Thank you.
Chair of the planning board.
Yes, sir.
I'm not representing them right now. We haven't talked about sort of what I brought here.
Understood.
So obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm here to talk about the 3A zoning issue, the MBTA zoning issue. I remain disappointed with Saturday and the outcome, but but I understand that a vote's going to be a vote and it's going to happen, and now we have to kind of figure out what we're going to do going forward, right? I had a couple of items that I just wanted to touch on real quick. And the first one was sort of taking a broad perspective. And I kind of alluded to it in my comments on Saturday. The vote went completely, in my opinion, completely against the master plan for the town. And when we and sort of the feel we get from the town, the planning board or myself, in this case, get from the town when we put out surveys about what we want to see in certain places, neighborhood mixed use, that kind of stuff. And so, I guess I don't have, and what I mean by that is we always hear that people want shops, cafes, they want to be able to walk it, they want to have a nice looking, we don't really have a downtown, but at least, Main Street to be nice. We've put in things into the bylaw, regarding how we want our buildings to look, how we want them kind of up against the street, maybe parking in the back. We want to see, when we see mixed use, we want to see commercial on the first floor, then we want to see some, apartments above, and that's how we want to do it. And just from my perspective, seeing, that vote and your sort of other votes that have come around, I don't actually see, any reliable information regarding sort of like a realistic vision that Wilmington has for Wilmington. And so I'm kind of putting that to you guys to sort of say, if I'm on the planning board, I don't even know what people want. And that's, that's frustrating for me. We try to respond to what we hear in the surveys, and we try to think about how that might come about. And in my opinion, this is one of the ways. There are other ways, and they tend to be met with resistance. So I see those two things as being in conflict, and you got a board over there that doesn't really know what to do with that. So that's, I think, something that you guys should discuss at some point. Think about discussing whatever it is. We don't know, and so I don't see how we can suggest how progress gets made, in that area. Secondly, this is sort of more acute to the law and the vote itself. So I don't think the state's going to go away. I'd be surprised if they did. I guess, what is the plan going forward? We now have a sort of a non-compliant town. You're the select board of that town. What are we going to do about that? My suggestion is really about monitoring impact. And because I think that we need to be transparent in what we might be missing out, we need to be transparent in what actually might turn into a benefit. Who knows? And I think it's very important that that we're able to, if not quantify, we're able to talk about impacts in Wilmington itself, and also in other towns that may come and affect us at a later date. We're not sure what's going to happen, and that's tough, and that's probably had a lot to do with a lot of people's votes. It's just, I'll believe it when I see it, right? You can't possibly take that away. We don't actually need that grant money, that kind of stuff. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we do need that grant money. Now we ought to look to maybe quantify that. We ought to look to we ought to look to be able to write those things down and say, geez, we're getting killed here, right? Or maybe you guys are, and what I'm saying is, have an agenda item, keep looking at this, right? Have it, a report from the town manager. I don't know, but have an agenda item where you keep looking at this, and you got to monitor impact. You got to figure out, we've made a decision. Now we have to track that decision and figure out if we have to make a shift at some point, or maybe it was the right thing, and on we go. But I really think you guys need to sort of consider that as a way forward, because right now I don't think the state's going to go away, and we need to. Maybe you guys have already talked about this, but we do need to figure out what we're going to do about it when they do start cutting grants, suing us, causing legal fees, causing resources need to be used. We need to weigh the costs. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your comments. I totally recognize that this is certainly frustrating, and I do appreciate you sharing your perspective. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I think was mentioned by everybody here Saturday, that we really appreciate all of your efforts. You yourself and the board and Valerie, the staff certainly had a huge undertaking, not one that I think anybody was very jealous of the job you had to do. But you did a great job, and obviously the residents have spoke just a little under 72 hours ago. So we, as it relates to what's going to happen, I think I'd be lying if I told you if I knew what was going to happen at this point. Certainly, I would imagine that we'll be monitoring. You haven't been contacted yet, I would assume.
I have.
Oh, yeah. Okay, excuse me. Then I stand corrected. Is there anything you want to share?
Sir,
To all of us?
Yeah, no, and it wasn't something that was on the agenda, so I didn't want to, but
thank
in
you.
response to that, I can say the Attorney General's office did reach out to our legal counsel on Saturday afternoon, so they've already been in touch with us, And, you know, we're likely going to anticipate litigation in January. I mean, that would
Okay.
be my estimation with Mark, is that we'll be in a group that becomes non-compliant January 1, and the AG's office will likely file suit against us then. But we'll obviously be tracking all that, if and when the board just feels like they want information, or at a periodic basis, I can certainly bring it to the board.
Yeah, I think it'd be, if you could put that into writing so we can get into the record and write to us about that, I think it would be great. That way, as you mentioned, we want to be transparent, obviously. And this is news that I'm learning for the first time as well. So I would imagine that, whether it's me as chair or anybody else, that we're going to try to stay on top of this the best we can. And as soon as we learn something, we're going to try to communicate that to folks. And, as far as, what's the plan going forward, again, I personally don't have one yet. Like I said, we didn't know what would happen on Saturday. Now we know. And, I agree, we will need a plan because there will be things coming down the road that we're going to have to deal with, whether they're positive or negative, and we need to be prepared for them now that we know the result of the residents' vote. So, again, I don't envy your position, and I appreciate, I understand your frustration. So thank you for your comments. Mr. DePalma, yes.
Start out with it. I want to thank you, Valerie, Paul, all your staff for what you put together. It was a really nice presentation and very interesting. Myself, my reason for voting against this was because I'm not going to be bullied. Yes, it's going to cost us money, but I think a lot of people were feeling the same way, that it was a bully tactic, a scare tactic, however you want to put it, to force us into something that we really didn't know what we were going to get ourselves into. I spoke to the town manager right after the town meeting, and I said, this is something we can't let go away. Not just the proposal that the state has made, but we have to seriously look at Main Street and see what we can do, if we can do anything, to better it, bring it up more businesses, and with businesses commercial comes residential also. I do understand that. But as far as what happened Saturday, I believe it was more of a, don't bully me, because this is what I'll tell you I'm going to do. I know with me it was that way, and with the number of people I spoke to, it was the same. It was the same with them. Plus the concern of when they start rattling off a lot of numbers on how many apartments they want and so forth and so on. But at no time should anyone who was involved in the creation of that project on the town side be ashamed of themselves, feel that they did the town wrong, or anything else. They did the town right on this. And this is something that we can bring forward. But as I said to the town manager, this is something we can't just wash under the rug now. Now that Main Street has been brought up, we have to start talking about it more and decide what we want to do. And if it does mean changing zonings, we're going to have to do it. What is best for the town and what the residents want. But thank you. I want to again, I want to just say how much I appreciate what you and everyone else did.
Mr. West?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, hi, Mr. Boland. Again, I echo our other select board members saying that, you, Valerie, everyone involved did an awesome job. You made the best of in my estimation, a bad proposal. I mean, the MBTA, I voted against, and like I said, I think you guys did the best possible job in trying to get that mitigated minimally. As you're taking surveys out, I guess a question back to you, if I may, sir, is you're taking surveys of the residents to see what they want, but what about the business owners and also the owners of the building? Because you got to remember, in most cases on Main Street, the people that work in the building, have their businesses in the building, are not the owners. So a lot of change may come from the owners themselves, as far as, gee, my building's getting old, I want to knock it down, I want to work with the planning board, Board of Appeals, possibly the select board to create a new
Please.
building. But, but the other thing we gotta look at too is, as we're looking at traffic, is there a way that we could widen Main Street and make it a 4-lane road?
Yeah, so again, I don't wanna come across like I'm speaking for the board or
No,
even for
we're
the
just having a
department. Yeah, yeah.
Discussion.
You know, my understanding is that they did go to the owners. I mean, they were notified, and I think the response, it's never gonna be unanimous, but I think the response was, yeah, that's a positive. And that's our take on it.
If I may, is it a positive from the building owners or the businesses within the buildings?
I couldn't say.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I understand what you're kind of saying. So I'd be lying if I knew everything that the department was doing over the last 3 years. I mean, there was a lot, and honestly, it felt like we kind of went back and forth like several times, right? So I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd prefer to be able to prepare stuff on that, but I yeah. So
And I don't want to interrupt both of you, but
No,
I
fine.
please, if I just wanted to add, because I think it's worth repeating, is that you were also given a task that was constantly changing. This wasn't like
Right.
it was the same task 3 years ago as it was a month ago. It's changed and evolved, and you folks adapted to that, and were, you
Yeah,
had
and
a lot of work.
and not to cut you off, but I think, and to that point, the next kind of evolution of this whole issue is gonna be, okay, what's coming down the pike from the state? Because once January 1st hits, now we're gonna actually know what you were sort of talking about is, okay, now we know what the stakes are, and now we can make a decision on it versus just saying, well, they're threatening and we don't wanna, we're not gonna deal with that. But now if we know what they are, makes it a little bit easier to make that decision, right? So.
Terry, through the chair, can I ask a question? When you said that you got a positive reaction to the MBTA housing change, or a positive reaction that you went there to say, would you like to
No,
bring the building down and put a new building up?
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody
Which,
said, would you like to do that? I mean, just to make it clear, nobody said, would you like to do that? The only thing we would have said, and again, don't quote me on anything,
Yeah,
please.
no, I
The
do.
only thing we would have said was, this is the zoning that we're thinking of proposing, and, and what do you think? So the zoning change for those spots on Main Street would have been, just to have that one multifamily overlay on it, would have been no different. Buildings same size, kind of stuff. All the stuff that Valerie talked about in the presentation. So
Ms.
Sure,
Maselli?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the two things that have been brought up by everybody here is that, what's coming next now that we've said no, which I think that Mr. Slagle will kind of be the lead on that with our attorneys, and we'll pass that information forward as we can and stuff. And the other part about what is what we want to do, we have an economic development committee, and I think they really need to be brought in, because as a former member and chair, select board representative, that is what they've been working on, in the past, is they've done surveys to current business owners in town, they've reached out to empty building owners. So I think that they should play a big part in what the plan is. At least I think they can really contribute to that, because they've already done a bunch of different surveys, reached out to residents, what residents want. So I think there's a lot of data there already, and they could probably be tasked with, getting more updated data. So I think it's important. I know they just got a couple new members. Hopefully they're going to start meeting more regularly, but I think we should definitely put them, to use in this particular thing, because I agree with you. We got to come up with a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again. Really appreciate your volunteerism and your leadership here. Sir, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Bendel. Glad to see you made it through Thanksgiving alive.
As am I.
Didn't want you to choke on any turkey bones. But I do think you're choking on a lot of agendas. I have actually a copy of my amendment that I read at the town meeting, and
Just to clarify, sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that the one that was shot down by the members there?
actually, no, it wasn't shot down. I guess you weren't paying
It
attention.
was shot down, I believe it was.
Oh, really? You see, it wasn't even allowed to go for a discussion or a vote. So how could people vote against it if it wasn't even put on the floor for a vote?
That's shot
So what I
down.
wanted to do tonight is I wanted to pass that out to every one of yous.
I don't need a copy, I have one.
You probably don't.
I actually did, I read it when you.
Thank you, can
put
just
it-
leave it right there, thank you.
It's not the one that was online.
Thank you, you can,
Sorry.
that's okay. Please
You could-
continue.
You could, thank you. I have some questions for each member of the board. Why don't I start with Mr. Kyra? Mr. Kyra, would you be kind enough to define for the town what-
Mr. McDonald, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as we've gone over for the past few years now, if you don't mind, please direct your questions or comments through the chair.
Would you be willing to ask Mr. Kyra if he would be kind enough to define for the community what the word inclusionary means when it comes to housing?
Mr. Kyra, if you don't mind, I'll just take this. I know you would love to get a gotcha moment out of us on something that wasn't on the agenda, but unfortunately, we're not going
comments
to put
are
a
on the
member of
agenda.
of our board on the spot here unless they want to.
You don't want to answer that?
I think that I can speak
Oh,
for
okay.
my members of the board that
That's
they're
fine.
well prepared to speak on things that are on
Nobody
the
has
agenda
to-
tonight, but
Nobody has to answer anything because it's public comment time. The reason why I asked the question is I thought it would be beneficial to the community to have an answer as to what the definition of inclusionary means. Because to me, it includes affordable housing for people. And I believe that in the guidance for the article that came before the town meeting, specifically Article 1, the MBTA Communities Overlay District, it had a component in there of inclusionary housing. The reason why I bring that up is I don't believe that it's a good idea to give up any grant money. And if you paid attention at the meeting, there were millions of dollars at risk of being lost or forfeited from the state, which is why I was motivated to put forth an amendment, and which is why I came before this board asking you to put forth another article in hopes that if the MBTA Communities Overlay District got shot down, we had something else to fall back on and put it in the hands of our state legislature in the form of a home rule petition so that they see that we were making a good faith effort at housing. You failed to do that. You failed to put it on any agenda, Mr. Bendel. And I think we're at risk now of losing millions of dollars because the board failed. And I think the moderator failed because I think he was very mistaken by not allowing that amendment to go forward for a discussion and a vote. And I'm very disappointed in our town clerk and him because they both received an attachment with that amendment that they could have put up on the screen to have the entire body view it, and they rejected doing that. And I actually think that that was a violation of my First Amendment rights, and it was a disservice to the people of Wilmington.
Well,
And to be
Mr.
quite
McDonald,
honest
I'm
with
going
you,
to jump
Mr.
in there. I
Bendel,
respectfully disagree with that. I just
you
want
can
to point out
disagree
that
with everything I said.
I usually do, but I want
Yeah.
to point out specifically that I reject that because I think our town clerk and our town moderator did a great job.
Okay, well, I don't think they did because they had the attachment and it could have been up there. And to be quite honest with you, the body has the ability, a person has the ability to appeal the moderator's decision to the body. All right? And if the people had been able to read that, they would have been able to see that it, in fact, was in line with the article, which was for housing, which was for 1,248 units, which not only included affordable senior housing, but it would have freed up houses of seniors selling their houses to the other people that are looking for houses. And if the town fell below its 10% affordable housing stock threshold, there would have been no age restriction on that. So if that had to went forth and it had to passed, it would have been put forth in the state legislature's hands to let them make a decision. And if they rejected it, right, they're rejecting something that was beneficial to the town, and we wouldn't have been at risk at losing money because it would have been their decision. I disagree with the entire board that the planning board did a good job, because part of the overlay district was on land that was taken by eminent domain. And you can't take something by eminent domain for a purpose and change the purpose. It should have been ruled out of order and illegal. And as far as rezoning Main Street for residential, who really wants to tell their kid to go play on the train tracks or play in traffic on Route 38? It's just not a place for residential zoning. So I was very disappointed in the moderator. I was disappointed in the planning board. And you have an opportunity here, Mr. Bendel. You got something before you in the form of a proposal, in the form of a guideline. Maybe you might see improvements that you can make to this proposal that I have. All right? But what it would take is for you to demonstrate some leadership and put it on the agenda and advertise it, get people to come down here and offer input and have a discussion on the board to see what we can do to benefit our community and not lose the grant money, and get something that actually works and actually demonstrates to the state legislature, the attorney general, that we're not giving them the finger, but rather we're trying to put something forth that actually makes sense. And if you actually think deeply and you actually look at what the planning board overlaid, they're overlaying projects that are already developed. And it's just throwing a monkey wrench, and it's just a complete joke to provide housing, which was the main reason for that MBTA Communities Overlay District, because there's a housing crisis. There's a housing crisis in Wilmington. There's a senior housing crisis, and none of yous have done anything about it, and it's disgraceful. And I just think it's, personally, if I was on the board, I would actually be putting forth a motion to remove you as the chairman, because, like I said, you choke every single meeting on putting together the agenda.
All right, thank
I
you
mean,
very
tonight
much,
I see
Mr.
that there's a
McDonald.
hockey thing.
I appreciate.
Maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you're like one of those guys that hide treasures, okay? Maybe the treasure's in the hockey puck. Maybe there's some type of secret clue that's going to solve our senior housing issue, Mr. Bendel. But, you know, of course you're not going to answer any questions. But the last question I had is for Mr. Slagle, and that was simply, what was the total of the warrants, and if you have considered constructing the warrants in a presentation form that is by department? Because
Thank
at the town meeting, we had to actually have an article that voted in to pay for a bill that gets slipped by. And I just think that if the warrants were by department, there could be better oversight and review, and these things wouldn't happen again.
Well, thank you, Mr. McDonald, for those comments. We're going to hopefully finish on a high note here. We're going to answer that question. And a final question of 2024. So, Mr. Slagle, do you have the gentleman's answer?
Yeah, the total value of the warrants were $6,900,587.38.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Appreciate your comments. I'll most certainly take them under advisement. But lastly, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Can you define
Would
what
anybody else
advisement
like
is, though, Mr. Bendel?
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone likes to be heard? Anyone else like to be heard?
Want me to get on Market Basket and see if there's some people down there want to come down here to, make public comment time? Because there's nobody else in the audience typically that wants to make anything.
I'd just like to check. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to announcements. Any members have an announcement this evening? Mr. West.
Continuing on a high note, I just want to say that Wilmington outdid themselves this past week. Not only did we have a town meeting, which we had 500 odd people show up, we also had the Festival of Trees, which was very successful, the tree lighting on the town common, and all the events that happened on the town common that night was great. The Hondon Tavern had their holiday open house, and the police fire did their Santa parade. So I think, that shows Wilmington. To me, that's a lot of what Wilmington's all about, and there may be events that I missed in here, but I think, congratulations to everybody that was somehow involved in putting any of this stuff together.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you, and you're being modest. All those things were planned around your birthday, so that was, that was nice that we did that. No, absolutely, totally agree. Any other announcements?
Yeah, no, just Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And I agree with Mr. West's comments. It was a pretty good weekend for the town.
Absolutely.
Exciting weekend for the town. It was fun.
That it was.
Seeing all those little guys smiling and everything.
Most definitely. I too, want to commend Fourth of July Committee did a great job with the festival, with the tree lighting, and then the folks who put on the festival of trees, and just everything going on. It was such a fun atmosphere this weekend, and to have Santa Claus show up, thanks to the fire department, police department, just outstanding. So grateful for that, and grateful for everybody who came out of town meeting. Also grateful that even though we had a little bit of snow, early in the morning on Sunday, our DPW crew was right on it, and we were able to have a wonderful Santa parade, which is just outstanding. This is, the 10th year now we've had this, and we look forward to many, many more of those. So thanks to the Wilmington Police and Fire and everybody who was involved. And I also want to thank Wilmington Police and Fire for their help on Friday night, their assistance along with the Billerica Police and Fire and Burlington Police, who were able to assist bringing home the Super Bowl champion Shawshene Tech Rams from Gillette. So I had to plug them, and I want to congratulate. No, seriously, we would not have made it home without them. They did a great job, and super proud of our kids, and I want to congratulate Coach Costabile and his staff, and all the kids were
Absolutely.
super proud of everybody to win the state title on Friday. What a great experience for those kids, and
Awesome.
it was outstanding. So, in closing, I also want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, all my colleagues, all of our staff, everybody at home, Merry Christmas, and I hope everybody will have a great, healthy new year.
Amen.
Any new business? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to important dates, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Important dates coming up in the town. On December 12th, we have Santa's Workshop here in Town Hall in this very room at 6 o'clock p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So that will be exciting. December 24th, Christmas Eve, town offices will be closed at noon. December 25th, town offices will be closed all day on Christmas. And January 1st, town offices will be closed all day. A reminder, January 3rd will be Sean Allen Collier Day here in town. So everybody, that's an important date for us all to keep in our mind after the holidays. That that's something important for everybody to think about. January 6th through the 17th, we're doing curbside collection of Christmas trees. Our next meeting as the Select Board will be January 8th here in Town Hall, Room 9 at 7 o'clock p.m. January 20th, Martin Luther King Day, town offices will be closed. And then on January 27th, we'll have the Select Board meeting here in Town Hall, Room 9, 7 o'clock p.m. That will include the town manager's FY26 budget presentation. So, something to look forward to.
Most definitely.
Do I have something to do with that?
You've got some work to do.
I do.
Thank you. And finally, we'll conclude with our traditional salute to service. Tonight's salute to service tonight, it's my pleasure on behalf of the board to salute Lori Beblin, private in the U.S. Army, a Hunter Army Airfield in Atlanta, Georgia, which was we're stationed. Lori grew up in Wilmington and was an outstanding athlete. Lori enlisted in the United States Army and received the Certificate of Achievement for maxing the Army Physical Fitness Test, a letter of commendation for maximizing the Army Physical Fitness Readiness Test, and a Certificate of Excellence in achieving a 296 out of 300 points for the Army Physical Fitness Readiness Test. Wow. And received the Army Service Ribbon and Sharpshooter Marksmanship Badge with rifle. So tonight, we salute Lori, and we thank her for her service to our country and in our town as well. So thank you so much. We salute you. And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And right here, third.
You picked that.
Yeah.
Seconded by Mr. West. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Good night, everybody.
Happy
Merry
Hanukkah, Merry
Christmas.
Christmas,
Happy
everyone
holidays,
enjoy,
happy
be
Hanukkah.
safe.